Helldivers, Escalation of Freedom is out, and I kind of have my first impressions of it, and kind of some things to discuss with the update, so I hope you guys have your emotional support, puppy, because it's not all good. She's not going to stay in my lap. And before we begin, if you guys like Helldivers 2 content, you're in the right place. Do the YouTube jazz. We're almost at 1K, which is fucking nuts. So yeah, let's get into the video. All right, I'm hanging out in this corner today. So let's talk about some things. First, let's go over the balance patch really quick. We're just going to go over the actual things they listen in the weapon and stratagem update. So I'll bring that up on the screen when we get to there. And then we'll go over the good with the update. I'm just going to talk about the Terminid side because that's the only side I've been playing against. I've been just testing out what all has been added with the bug side. And then we'll talk about the bad. So basically do balance, the good, and then the bad. And yeah, the background footage is just going to be me in tier 10 this morning that I picked up. So feel free to leave me on in the background if you want. So real quick, I'll bring up the weapon balance and everything. I don't want to go over this too much just because there's just not a lot of exciting things going on with this. The slugger got a little bit of a buff. I think it did need that increased stagger. Now the spread part, I don't understand because it's a single shot, so we'll see what that means. And then increased drag, that's just the ergonomics. The breaker incendiary caught a nerf. Unfortunately, the mag size got reduced to 4 magazines, and then got a little bit more of a kick to it with the recoil. That's an interesting choice considering the breaker shotgun, again, it's only used against the bugs, so nerfing the ammo capacity kind of sucks because you do chew through magazines pretty quick with that weapon. So that one's unfortunate. The grenade pistol, a little bit of a mixed bag there. The overall ammo capacity dropped to 6 magazines or 6 shells, but when you replenish ammo, you get 4 instead of 2. I guess that's fine. Crossbow, one-handed now. That's just better because now you can run and gun with it. God Dog, I can't say I've ever used it because it's been notoriously bad, so is what it is. The Walking Barrage, that got a buff, more salvo, slower move speed, probably better for, concentrated shots. And then the Orbital 120 Barrage, lower cooldown, reduced time between salvos. Overall pretty good. So overall here, what they actually list in balancing, it's mostly positive, The breaker incendiary, that one kind of sucks, but I'm wondering if they're doing that because the other fire shotgun's coming out, so they're basically nerfing that one so people want the new one. I don't know, but there are unlisted changes, and so we'll talk about those because there's one big one that everybody probably knows that I'm going to talk about, and we'll talk about that in the bad section, unfortunately. But let's start off with the good. So these are just my early impressions of what's good. And again, I'm only going to be talking about the Terminid side because that's mostly what I've been playing and testing against. So first off, the new enemies, the Impaler. This thing is a lot of fun to fight. This thing is a nice addition to the bugs arsenal against us. Its health sits somewhere between a Behemoth Charger and a Bile Titan. So a Behemoth Charger, it'll die with 1 rail cannon shot. A Bile Titan will not, and an Impaler does not die to just 1 rail cannon shot. I was taking the Impalers out consistently with 2 spear shots. That sometimes works on a Bile Titan, sometimes it doesn't. Their health pool is kind of crazy, so you never really know with them. So overall, that's what their health pool is looking like. They look like they're fully heavy armored. My recommendation for fighting them, I wouldn't go for the claws. Sometimes the worst part is when the claws are out and you don't know where the actual Impaler is. That can be, I wouldn't call it frustrating. It's just like, shit, they got me. So that's pretty cool about them. But the way I would take them out is something like a spear or just at least 2 different types of stratagems being thrown at them. I put clips up of the short with a rail cannon and the 500 kilogram Eagle Airstrike, and that did the trick. So these things are cool. They're huge, by the way. They're a lot bigger than I thought they were going to be. So really cool. Now, I didn't talk much, or actually, I cut the part out from the Escalation of Freedom trailer talking about the new commanders, and kind of glad I did because they're new edition ones. They look cool as hell, by the way. That's a positive. But there's not really a huge difference. They summon 3 warriors now instead. They maybe have a little bit more health, but really not a whole lot going on with them. But there's a lot of them on tier 10 and tier 9. So that's a thing. The new Bile Chargers, they do have that fog cloud around them, and then when they die, they do explode. So, watch out when you're up close. But I think they share the same health pool as the normal Charger. So just like a rocket to the face can one-tap them. That's not a big deal. So nice addition. So overall, the things they added to the bugs, pretty cool. Now the new mission type in the swamp area, both, again, just more good stuff. Now with the new large bug compounds, there's a mutated egg inside. So I imagine on the bot side, it's that during the trailer that automaton head he was carrying. So on the bug side, it's a mutated egg. And so what you want to do with this mutated egg is take it and basically just drop it off at the extraction if you still have mission stuff to do. But yeah, if you want to grab that and extract with it, it'll just give you more samples at the end. And I have a screenshot out of it. So not a whole lot. It's just a nice little addition. I was kind of hoping for like, I don't know, some sort of like collectible or something more hidden. It's fine. I was probably just thinking a little bit too much about it considering, you know, they said it would be a nice goodie, but it is what it is. And one of the last good things I want to mention is tier 10 stuff. There's a lot of chaff. A lot of chaff and a lot of, you know, heavier targets. It just seems like there's just enemies everywhere. It kind of feels like at some point tier 9 was like kind of this difficult where like the entire time you're just being swarmed and your head's on a swivel. Obviously, if you have a coordinated team, that's probably the preferred way to do this. But with randoms, yeah, I definitely noticed it was almost like an every man for themselves at some point instead of like trying to hold a line. We're all just fucking running instead. So, you know, that's a good bad thing depending on how you want to look at it. So that's my experience with the good. I think these are all nice additions to the sandbox, so big thumbs up there. So let's get into the bad and probably the large section of this video. Let's start off with the technical state and the bugs. They're back. I mean, constant crashing, constantly getting kicked back to my ship during missions. This just kind of is a repeating thing when they have updates. Hopefully their hot fixes come a little sooner now that everybody's back from their, you know, their summer break that most of the developers on that they said. I kind of feel for them on this one because yeah, they just got back from their, you know, their summer breaks. The technical state of the game not great at the moment, so I don't know if people need to give it a few days for them to iron it out, or maybe it's just a higher population, but kind of sucks that this hasn't been figured out, is what it is, I suppose. And then the big topic is the flamethrower nerf. So not listed in the balancing is the flamethrower nerf. They threw it down in the technical section, which we're just going to call bullshit right away. The flamethrower has been operating this way since the beginning of the game. So let's talk about how it was nerfed. It now doesn't go through charger armor. Chargers are basically impenetrable to it on the normal spots that you're able to melt them. And so let's sit on the side of, okay, this is a bad nerf. Like we're angry about this because it was a very viable and good weapon against the bugs. You don't usually use the flamethrower against the automatons, so the bots. Basically nobody uses it against them. So that's already half the enemies that nobody uses it against. And then for the bug side, the Bile Titan, it's not effective against. And I imagine if they say they didn't touch it, I don't think it would be effective against the Impaler either. So there's two things that you just don't use it against. And so everything else under that, it was super effective. But mostly it was a charger killer because chargers on the higher tiers are very oppressive. There's a lot of them. They constantly keep coming. So this was just one tool for us to fight them. So we have all these chargers and we had, you know, this pie here of weapons to use, and this nerf basically just shrunk that pie. And so I thought we learned this with the railgun, because when the railgun came out, it was basically the only thing people were running against the bugs, because it killed everything on the bug side. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, fire damage wasn't good when the game launched. Two, the spear didn't work, and I think there was also issues with explosive damage, so rockets didn't work. So literally the railgun was the only thing that worked. And then they nerfed it. And then we didn't have anything against them until they bought the shit out of fire damage, and then they fixed the explosive damage. And eventually now they fixed the spear damage. So I thought we already went through like this roller coaster of when to balance and nerf things. And they just kind of nerfed this thing to basically the ground without anything to compensate it. So that sucks. So I can see why it's very upsetting that they took the flamethrower basically out of the bug arsenal. Yeah, it's still a good crowd clear, but because of the state of how many charges there are, it's just not, to me, it's just not a good a pick anymore, and that's unfortunate because now I'm just going to gravitate more towards the spear and the commando. So it's kind of a bummer. And I feel like this nerf also does kind of hurt the premium war bond because you just nerfed essentially fire damage and your premium war bond is centered around fire. So I don't know who's going to be as excited to get the premium war bond, which is your, you know, that's the way you get money, primary way to get money in this game. or it's a primary income source for the game, for the developers. I think the timing's bad, you know, and I feel like a lot of this could have been avoided with just some communication. Because let's be honest, the mass population that we had at launch is now dwindled down to we're like the core base, you know, the core player base and the core community. So the lack of communication, like they should have seen this backlash coming from a mile away. I don't understand what their forums and their Discord and their community managers are. I don't say they're. I'm not saying they're doing a bad job. But I'm saying like you have them to use to gauge, you know, community reaction to upcoming balance changes, or like even discuss what you're thinking when you're going to balance. And I just feel like this tension could have been avoided. I thought we learned this lesson the last time they just did a round of nerfs without really buffing anything. And this is a PvE game. You know, I don't know. We'll see what they do about this one. You know, it's not the end of the world. We're just gonna have to use rockets now, and maybe go back to the rail gun and two tap their, you know, do the two tap to the leg and then melt them with another, you know, your regular guns. But yeah, kind of again, just a bummer. Yep. So those are basically my early impressions of the update. You know, there's some good, some bad. You know, I'm sure things will get ironed out, you know, eventually. It just I'm kind of bummed about the flamethrower one, because I do like using the flamethrower. Again, it's just going to push us all to use rockets instead, which is fine, but I just, you know, you kind of just don't want the community to be pushed, you know, to only using certain weapons on certain difficulties. You know, we want to use the arsenal that we have, you know, on hand. So see how it goes. And I'll catch you for the next one, Helldivers. I've got a build coming out. It's definitely not ready for tier 10, but it's a fun time anyways. So I'll see you then. Peace.